I should also introduce myself. For those who haven't met me before, I'm Venerable Nissarano, and it's a little bit unusual Thai tradition with the O at the end. And I'm an Australian monk. Many people in Sri Lanka think I'm Japanese. Quite interesting. I'm not quite sure why, but somebody told me because I'm small. And I ordained with Ajahn Ajahn Brahm, whom I'm sure you all know of. And I spent 9.5 years with Ajahn Brahm at the Bodhiana Monastery in Western Australia. And of course found great benefit in his teaching, and it's been a mainstay of my practice ever since. And now, after being there for 9.5 years, I had a little bit of travel. I went to Thailand, I also went to Burma, but then I came to Sri Lanka in 2006, and I have been here ever since. But I do go and visit Australia from time to time. And these days, the last few years, it's been annual, so it's a bit more than I anticipate, but still. And I live in Sri Lanka. I live not in a monastery. Many people ask, which Aranya are you in, or which Pansala are you in? And I actually live in a kuti on my own in the forest. It's the Taniima kuti, as we say in Sinhala, and it belongs to a group, though. So there is a group of monks in the area I live in, Tanjantana, near Balangoda. And there's now about 30 monks there. And as I say, I've been living in this kuti 7.5 years, and it's a cave, or a Purana Galena, we usually call it. So it's an ancient cave. And it's on a mountain, a khanda, and I see the Kumbaru and the mountains beyond. So it's a very nice place to practice. And so very, very useful. And something I appreciate greatly. And every day, go Pindapata to the village, which is very easy. So good. So this evening, just the format I just mentioned before we start is I will give a little introduction to the meditation. And then after that, we can have a meditation for about half an hour. We see how that goes. And then after that, have a talk about meditation. I'll go into more detail about the process of meditation. Do many of you meditate? Yes, good. You're probably very proficient. Very good. No, that's good. And after that, we can have some questions, comments, complaints afterwards. So you're welcome to some feedback if you wish. That's fine. And I think the idea is, I heard 1 hour and 15 minutes. So to finish by, is it quarter to 8? I think it is. Yes. 1 hour. Yes, 7:30. Yes, quarter to 8. So that's good. I feel it's very important to have this emphasis on meditation. In Sri Lanka, I see many people who practice dana. They do practice dana, and in Sri Lanka that is a very well-developed quality, actually, dana. It's nice to see. And I see a lot of people take sila. It is always in my mind, as it is probably in your minds too, whether they keep it. That's the important issue. The pin, the merit that's made is made from keeping it, not taking it. So that's the important thing. And there's a funny story of people, I've heard this one, before taking, for instance, taking the 8 precepts in the morning, then the 5 in the afternoon on the Poya day. So 13 precepts in one day, maybe even more if they take the 10 precepts, they can get to 23. So this is not the way to do it, actually. Mind you, if you keep 5 precepts, that's good enough, actually. That's a very good standard. So this is important. And also, I see in Sri Lanka, and when I go on Pindapata every morning, the television's on, the radio's on, often in the house. And often Banna's playing on the television, sometimes on the radio, or Pirit. I hear it a lot. So I feel in Sri Lanka people have access to a lot of Dhamma talks, Dhammadeshana, Banna, and Pirit. But the emphasis they don't have is on bhavana. And I always say that bhavana is like the control panel, because it's working with, what's it working with? The mind. This is where everything is coming from the mind. So bhavana is a very important thing, because if we can work with the mind, if we can understand the mind, then we're in a situation where our sila can get better, our dana can get better, we can have more happiness, and we can deal with life's problems much, much better. And this way, it is of great benefit to us, actually. Of course, dana and sila, always good, always good. And in the Buddha's teaching, sila, of course, it determines our rebirth. And dana is the quality control. So whatever rebirth we take, it will, if we've done a lot of dana, it will be good quality experience in that rebirth. And it's good to make that point, because I was reading a sutra the other day where the Buddha talked about a person who didn't keep 5 precepts, the pansil. He didn't keep them, but he did do dana, and he gave dana to an arahant. And as a result, he was born as an elephant, but he had everything he needed as an elephant because he had done dana. So it's good to remember that. It's quality control, but it doesn't determine what our rebirth is. So sila is also our protection. It makes us happy too. Because if we want to be happy, do good. Do good to be happy is very true. And if we break sila, it's always on our mind, or it always weighs us down. So this evening, the meditation, I'll just give a brief sort of introduction to some of I'll do a guided meditation, but give you a brief introduction to it, so that when we get to those sections, you won't be thinking, what's he talking about? What does he mean? So I'll explain some of those things. So in meditation, we have to prepare the body, that's for sure. It's very important to prepare the body, otherwise it becomes a disturbance. So the posture should be reasonably alert, reasonably straight, but relaxed. This is important. And the other aspect of that, relaxing the body, is essential too. And generally I teach that physically and mentally. And I will talk a little bit more about that after the guided meditation. But with relaxing the body physically, I call it a workout. It's a bit of yoga. And the way I usually do it is to tighten, I've been doing this recently actually, tightening the foot up to the hip, and then swivel the hip, the right hip, back and forth. And then it's very good, easy when you're sitting cross-legged actually. Sitting on a chair, it's a bit different. And then the left leg, from the foot to the hip, tighten a little bit, and then swivel that, like that. And then with the arm from the hand to the shoulder, up to the neck, tighten that a little bit, and then swivel that a few times. And then the left arm the same. And then to bring the shoulders up, because this is where our tension often accumulates. And the next thing I usually do is to swivel the neck from one side to the other. So, and then the last thing, and this always looks very funny, is to tense up the mouth, the eyes, the forehead, and the top of the head. Hold and then let go, and then you relax. And then we do a mental relaxation. And I'll discuss the importance of relaxation for the meditation. It is very, very important. It's one of the most basic preparations for it. And then the second aspect of the meditation is preparing the mind. And I'll go into more detail about this, but always it's good to have some intention, some aim in the meditation. And but this doesn't have to become like a expectation or a demand, just to give the mind some stability. Otherwise the mind can just dull out, can just go into a snooze mode or so very good. And then one of the most important things is our attitude, our motivation when we do the meditation. And I'll talk at more length about this later. This is actually central to the meditation and to our lives. So we need to develop a positive emotion, a positive attitude, positive motivation. And this evening I'll probably do a combination of giving Maitri, giving metta, giving loving kindness. But other ones that I do also use very regularly, and I'll talk about them, is gratitude, contentment, having enough, and metta we use this evening, karuna, and so on. But there are many other approaches that are very useful depending on the state of our mind. So that's always very good to notice what our mind needs and then use the appropriate positive emotion that will, ease that state of mind or give more support to it if it's a very positive one. So very good. And then after we've established this feeling, I like to, the way I teach meditation is to keep this positive feeling in mind when we go into the other stages of the meditation. And the next stage, of course, the present moment. If we're not in the present moment, we're not meditating, really. That's basically it. But this is not so easy, getting into the present moment. So we will letting go of the past and letting go of the future, our plans, expectations, not easy, actually. So, but at the same time, when we're in the present moment, we're just experiencing whatever we're aware of at that in each moment. It may be sounds. It's usually feelings in the body, because the body is our number one difficulty, we could say, in meditation, dealing with the body. Maybe there's heat in the body, maybe there's itching in the body. There can be many things, or the body's tired, any of these things. But we notice whatever we're aware of, sound, feelings in the body, anything that comes to mind. And then when we're aware of it, then we can go to the next thing that occurs to us, that occurs in the next moment. We don't choose in the present moment. You don't have to think, oh, what have I got to be aware of? It's just whatever comes to you at that moment, whatever is prominent, whatever you're most aware of. And then when that's finished, then the next thing will come. So that's the present moment. And we, as I say, keep that positive feeling going. And then the next stage is present moment awareness of the breath. This is anapanasati, Ajahn Brahm's specialty, actually. And so then a very important thing is just to let the breath come to us. When you're in the present moment, as you probably, meditators will be aware of this, what's the most prominent thing in the present moment? When you get still, it's just breathing. It's a really big function in the body, actually. So one doesn't really even need to move the attention to it. It just, as you're in the present moment, it becomes more and more obvious. So in that sense, it comes to you. And so we use the breath, the inhalation and the exhalation. We're aware of it coming and going. And we combine that with this feeling of, this positive feeling. This evening, Maitri, giving Maitri to ourselves. So, and I talk more about that when I give the talk. I can go into more detail. So the reason for that is, if you have this positive feeling, this happy feeling, this pleasant feeling in the mind, and it's combined with the breath is very interesting. It's nice, it's pleasant. It becomes just like that feeling, because this is the beauty of the breath meditation, anapanasati. The breath by itself is fairly neutral. It's not very attractive, it's not very unpleasant, it's not very pleasant. So we can bring whatever quality we like to the breath and make it interesting. And a pleasant feeling makes the breath interesting. The mind doesn't want to go here, there and everywhere. It doesn't want to go to the past and the future. So anyway, we can talk more about that later. So now I think we can practice the meditation. I like to do the meditation early because some people like talks first, but if you do the talk first, by the time you get to the meditation, you've been sitting for a while, and so it gets a bit difficult, and you get a bit tired too later. So good to do it when you're a bit fresher, I think. So And also, the benefit of having the meditation first is it focuses our minds, my mind as well as your mind. So, and then what we hear, can resonate more with us, with each of us. So that's good. So, if we'd like to, first of all, find a comfortable position. A position you can just hold, you can maintain with in a relaxed way, just for the half hour, about half an hour. So that's good. All right. And now we can close the eyes. And just check if we are comfortable in that position. And adjust the body as we need. And now we can bring the mind to the body, and beginning with the foot up to the hip, we can tighten it a little, tense it a little, and then swivel it backwards and forwards a few times, just to make it comfortable and make sure our sitting area is comfortable. And then with the left leg, we can do the same. From the foot right up the left leg to the hip, we can tighten it a little and then swivel that or move it backwards and forwards. And that relaxes that part of the body. And now we can move on to the hands. The right hand up to the right shoulder to the neck. And we tighten that a little bit and then swivel that, move it backwards and forwards, just to relax it and let go. And then with the left hand, the left arm, up to the shoulder, to the neck, tighten it a little bit and then swivel that, move it backwards and forwards. And then we can move the shoulders up towards the ears and down a few times, just to relax that area. And then to turn the head, swivel the head to the right shoulder, look over the right shoulder, and then back to the center, to the left shoulder. And we can do this a few times. And now we can just tighten the area around the mouth, the eyes, the forehead, and also the top of the head, and then hold and let go. Just to let go of all the tension around the eyes and the mouth. And now we relax the body with the mind, moving from the top of the head like a massage, with this warmth, this relaxation, with this kindness, moving down the face, around the back of the head, around the eyes, the mouth, down the neck, all around the neck, down the right shoulder, to the right arm, to the elbow, down to the wrist and the hands, the fingers too. And then we move the attention to the left shoulder, to the left upper arm, down to the elbow, the wrist, the hands and the fingers, allowing them to relax, soothing them with this mental massage. And now we relax the back, starting at the shoulders and moving down the back, gently, gently allowing the back to relax, let go, releasing any tightness, tension, down to the top of the legs, noticing the back, how it is. And we move the attention to the front of the body, just below the shoulders and move down the chest, noticing how it is, giving it this soothing, warm, relaxing massage with the mind. Down to the stomach area and down to the abdomen. And then we move the attention to the top of the right leg, from the hip down, the upper leg, right leg, to the knee, down the lower leg to the foot and the toes, relaxing, soothing, releasing. And now we move the attention to the left leg, from the hip, moving down the upper leg, to the knee, to the lower leg, to the ankle and the foot, down to the toes. Relaxing, releasing any tension, any tightness. Now we become aware of the whole body just sitting here. The body just sitting here now. Now we bring to mind an intention for the meditation. Maybe we could have a very simple intention, like just to let things be. Whatever has been on our minds before, to just let it be for the meditation during this period, not long. And we can always say to ourselves, later, if things come up. And now we can visualize, have an image of, giving ourselves a beautiful gift, a gift of Maitri, of metta, of loving kindness, and wishing for ourselves, may I be free of troubles of body and mind. May I live at ease and at peace with myself and others. This beautiful gift of metta, of Maitri. And we can wish this for everyone here as well. We can see ourselves giving them gifts of metta, of Maitri, wishing everyone here, may you be free of troubles of body and mind. May you live at ease and at peace with yourself and the world. And now we come into the present moment, letting go of the past, because we know it's finished. Can't rearrange the past. And the future, totally uncertain. Despite all our plans, it's uncertain. So we're here in the present moment. And the present moment is like a holiday for the mind, a niwadu for the mind, where we have this feeling of metta, maitri, and we experience whatever we're aware of from moment to moment, whatever is prominent to our attention, moment after moment, whether it's the sound of the fans, whether it's a feeling of the air, whether it's warmth in the body, saliva in the mouth, pressure of the feet on the floor, or the sitting area on the floor, whatever we're aware of, moment to moment, just to be here with a sense of maitri for whatever we're experiencing. And if the mind wanders off, we just come back to whatever we're aware of now. Just being aware, the mind's wandered. And then come back to the most prominent object in the moment. And now if we can let the breath come to us, the awareness of the breath coming in and going out. And it doesn't matter where you're aware of the breath coming in, going out, whether it's the nose, at the nostrils, whether it's at the chest, the throat, or in the abdomen, the stomach area, wherever it's prominent. Just to be aware of this breath coming in and out, naturally flowing in and out. Just watching this natural process with Maitri, with this gift of Maitri that we've given ourselves. Feeling it, combining it with the breath. So the breath is like Maitri. And we're aware of the breath coming in and going out, just watching the breath come in and go out. And as we stay with the breath more and more, we can see different qualities about the breath. We can see maybe the breath in breath is short, the out breath is short, or that it's a long in breath, long out breath. or that the breath is rough or smooth, warm or cool, whatever quality we can see with the breath, it makes it more interesting for the mind. And if the attention wanders off, we bring it back to the breath and remember the feeling of Maitri and combine it with the breath. Breathing in Maitri, breathing out Maitri. And now we are becoming aware of more and more of the breath, the beginning of the in-breath, all the way through to the end of the in-breath, to the gap between the in-breath and the beginning of the out-breath, and all the way to the end of the out-breath, knowing more and more of the breath, staying with the breath more and more. The breath which is full of Maitri metta. And now we can just calm the breath down, letting it be, making it even more peaceful, more pleasant. And now we are coming towards the end of the meditation, so we can just check how we feel now. Is the mind different from where we started? And what has made the difference? What is the cause for this difference? And now we share this energy from the meditation, whatever peace, whatever maitri, whatever stillness, whatever wisdom we've developed. We share it with everyone here, all the seen beings, unseen beings, our family and friends, and all beings everywhere, for their happiness, well-being, and freedom from difficulties of body and mind. And lastly, we have the aspiration to develop more mindfulness, more kindfulness, mindfulness with kindness for ourselves and for all beings. And now we can slowly move the body and open the eyes gradually. So I hope that you had a pleasant experience, because one of the important ingredients for success in meditation, like life, is you must enjoy it. If it's not pleasant, not many people will keep at it. Sometimes that's the problem with meditation. They can't find the happiness or the joy in it, and therefore they give up because it's too hard, they don't feel better after it. It's very important that we have the combination of those qualities of the mind. And this, of course, is the qualities of samatha and vipassana. All of us have these qualities. And I often find it quite strange when people try to split them. And they say, I practice vipassana bhavana, I practice samatha bhavana. Our minds have both qualities. We need both qualities. We need wisdom to develop samatha, and we need samatha to develop vipassana, because our minds need to be steady, happy, and strong. And that's the strength of samatha, and then we can see things differently. If we could see things differently just with our ordinary mind, we'd be able to become enlightened easily, no problem at all. I mean, we should be able to do it. Anybody could do that. But because our ordinary minds lack that happiness, that strength, that stability, we don't see things very clearly. And it's to me the big difference is, a good illustration is, if I want to see this cup of tea, the ordinary mind is like this. You can just sort of see what's going on. And when the mind starts to calm down, it starts to slow down. And then, I can see a cup of tea and there's something floating in it. so this is essential for us. And we have both qualities in the mind, both qualities. So I was going to ask you, the first question is, what is our most important resource in life? There's probably going to be lots of answers. Any ideas? Most important resource. What's the most important thing? Maybe you can say thing. Water. Water. Yes. Yeah. It's very important. Actually, it's getting more important all the time. So no, that's very important. But I'm thinking of, and I've been talking about, what does the Buddha have been talking about? Actually, what's meditation all about? Yes, it's the mind. That's the mind, actually. And I was going to quote the Buddha saying about the mind. You all know it from probably from the Dhammapada, which is Mano Pubangama, Dhamma, Mano Seta, Mano Maya. And this is translated in English as mind is the forerunner of all mental states or mental qualities. Mind is their chief. They are mind-made, these mental qualities that happen. And if, with an impure mind, one speaks or acts, suffering follows that person like the wheel follows the foot of the ox. Or, if we, with a pure mind, speak or act, happiness follows us, like our never-ending, never-departing shadow. So this is very very important to realize that the mind is the forerunner of all mental states. And this is good news for us, actually. And one other place, sutta, this is in the Anguttara Ones. Later in the Anguttara Ones, the Buddha mentions that mind arises first, and these either the unwholesome qualities come, or the wholesome qualities, whichever we're developing. So this is good news because it means, doesn't it, that the mind can be purified. That these qualities, negative qualities, we call them unwholesome, or positive, can be reduced and abandoned completely. And wholesome qualities can be developed. So this is what Buddha is talking about, of course, is developing our minds. And this is the whole of our the Buddhist path. Anybody's path in life, really, any religion, I think, is to develop the wholesome qualities in the mind and to let go of, abandon the unwholesome qualities in the mind. And this leads to happiness. It leads to happiness. As soon as the defilements are reduced, we are much happier, much lighter. And I'd like to tell a story that is from the commentaries, and my chief monk, local Hamdru, I heard it from him, actually. This version comes from him, but I've also heard that Venerable Kiribati Goda Nyanananda, he uses it too, but I think slightly different way he presents it. This one is I like this one, actually. And this is, I don't know if you've heard it, the story of the man with 4 wives. Have you heard that story? Maybe this will be slightly different, I don't know. You can tell me afterwards. I'm interested to know, actually. There was a man who had 4 wives. I think one is enough. Probably wives think one husband is enough, so 4 wives. He had 4 wives, and he was getting very old. Getting very old. And his first wife was his most recent wife, and she was absolutely beautiful, much, much younger. And I liken her to the supermodel. She was so beautiful. And he loved to spend money on clothing, jewellery, whatever she wanted. And gave her a lot of attention and time because she was so beautiful. She was the model, supermodel. And then his second wife, he liked her very much too. She was a real manager. She could manage the home, their finances. She looked after everything very well. She was a great asset to him. So he spent a lot on her too, whatever she needed for the home, and he listened to her advice for business and all this sort of thing. She was the manager. So that's wife number 2. And his third wife, she was very vivacious, very a good communicator. She was a great networker. She was like a socialite. Wherever she went in company, she shone. And he loved to be with her because they were the centre of attention wherever they went. And his fourth wife, which was his original wife, his first wife, she didn't have any of these qualities. She was sort of in the background. She was a homely sort of person. And so he didn't pay much attention to her at all. And he neglected her in many ways. He didn't he spent a lot of money on his wife that was a socialite. He spent a lot of money on his wife who was a manager, and the one that was a supermodel. Yes, lots of time, attention, and very proud and happy. But as he was getting older, and he realised, death was coming. So he thought, I will be lonely when I die. I'd like my wives to come with me. And so he said to his wife, who was the supermodel, he said, darling, please come with me when I die, so I won't be lonely. You can come with me. And she looked at him with horror in her eyes and said, no way, I won't go one step from where you die. And he was shocked. He thought, I've given so much time, attention, love. And she says, no way. And so he was taken aback. He thought, well, wife number 2. who is like the manager. She's been a great support. She's made the household really work, the finances all balanced and even growing. So he thought, well, I ask her. And so he asked his second wife. He said, well, darling, will you come with me when I die? And she too, she looked with horror at him and she said, no way. I will only go as far as the gate. Is it the same? Oh, it is. Oh, that's interesting. And so he was very disappointed. I mean, after all the time, effort and money and attention and no gratitude. So the third wife, who was a socialite, a great communicator, dazzling personality and entertaining person, he thought, well, she will definitely, come with me, to when after I die. So he asked her, and she said, no way. I will go as far as the grave, and that's it. And so he was really disappointed. He thought, my goodness, these are the wives that I've given so much to. And I'm only asking this small thing that they come with me after I die. Small thing, I don't know. And so then he asked his fourth wife, darling, will you come with me? And she said, of course. I've come with you throughout our lives. I've always been with you, And of course I'll go with you. And he was amazed that she would come. And he felt guilty, actually, because he hadn't given her much attention, because the others were much more dazzling, much more interesting, beautiful, intelligent, entertaining, great organisers. And he realised, that he felt guilty about it. And now the time for the questions are, who was wife number one, the supermodel? What does she represent in our lives? We pay a lot of attention to our bodies, exactly. Body. This is body, actually. This one is body because she's a supermodel. So this is body, because we actually do spend a lot of time on the body. If you look at the amount of time that the body takes up and we devote to it, it's extraordinary, actually. It's really, it's a lot of time. Actually, our houses, our cars, everything's designed for the body, isn't it? The beds, the toilets, everything is really for the body, the comfort of the body. And who is the second one, the manager? Anybody? Wealth, yes. Wealth, possessions, property. And this is very important in our lives too, isn't it? Maybe number two. I think sometimes number one, actually. So, and we spend a lot of time on that, don't we? Acquiring it can take a long time. Maintaining it, keeping it can also take a long time as well. And then, of course, like the body, can we take it with us? No, can't take the body with us. As you get older, I know for myself, and I'm sure the older people here know, you don't want to take the body with you. You've had enough. The body's finished. But when we're young, we don't think like that. So we can't take the body beyond the grave, beyond death. We can't take our assets, our houses, our homes, all the things that we love, the paintings, pictures, all the furniture, the things that we really find very pleasant. And who does a socialite represent? Relatives, friends. It can also be, in life, this is very important for people, position, status in life, your place in the community, in the society you live in, very important. And that is so much built up on your ability to impress, to be a good communicator. Or networker I call it too. So it's right, it's relatives and also the sense of fame, wanting reputation and status and so on, position. And the last wife, and of course, can you take that? Can we take that with us when we die? Our relatives we can't take with us. To a certain extent, you can take your reputation. After you die, the reputation can still linger on. And we have many great artists that are remembered still, writers and so on. And so that a little bit maybe. And the last wife, who was very homely. Who was the last wife? Who did she similar? Bad karma. Good and bad karma. Is what he says? It's no. In this version, it's the mind. It's the mind. It's what the husband had neglected. He'd neglected this wife over the years, hadn't paid much attention. She's in the background. And hadn't done much for her. And this is very true of us. And what can we take with us to our next life? The mind. It's actually the consciousness, but that's what we take with us. And that contains, as you said, good and bad karma, that's for sure. That's the karma is what we take to our next life. And this is the aspect that we neglect quite often in our lives, is looking after the mind. And this is actually much more important than all the others. The body, more important than our possessions, more important than our relatives, our status, our position. Because the mind makes a difference to the world we live in. If we have a beautiful mind, we live in a beautiful world. If we have a mind that's got a lot of negativity, anger, aversion, competition, that's the world we'll live in, and not so pleasant. So this is where we should, as it were, put more of our investment in. And this is what meditation encourages us to do, actually, put more investment into the mind. Because meditation, it's very nice to have a simile for meditation. I've got quite a few similes for meditation, but one of them is like a bath for the mind, or a shower for the mind, or washing for the mind. We wash the body, don't we? I mean, if we didn't wash the body every day, maybe more than once a day, it would be really unpleasant. It would be really difficult for us and probably other people as well. But do we clean the mind? How do we clean the mind? And that's where meditation comes in. And I think you even with this meditation this evening, you see the difference between the mind before and after. And you notice that the mind is calmer, clearer, and maybe some of the negative states that were there perhaps before have calmed down. And this is the idea of meditation, to clean the mind, to cleanse the mind. And of course probably one of the most famous books in Buddhism, the Suddhimagga. And that's the Pali means the path of purification, so this cleansing of the mind. And this is what meditation and bhavana are for that. So the important thing for the meditation too is to realize we're not doing the meditation. We facilitate, we make meditation happen, but we're not doing it. This is very important. We're only passengers, as it were. This is a nice simile for meditation. We're actually aiming at developing a more passive, receptive mind, but active, but aware. Not active, aware. So in other words, often when we become passive and receptive, what happens? Go to sleep. Actually, usually doze. So this is actually the difficulty for most of us. Actually, if you have active lives, when you sit down to meditation, this can be when you're calming the mind down. Then one can go either towards having awareness or go towards dullness. And to a certain extent, it's very natural if the body's tired and the mind's tired from work all day that it will go into a dull state. But then usually it comes out of that and the awareness can return. So very important that we aim towards that awareness. So good, we're not doing the meditation and we're passengers, that's important. And the process of meditation is really, first of all, to develop mindfulness. This is why being in the present moment is so important. Because if we're not in the present moment, we're not with what is happening now. And so this is where we need to develop. Mindfulness is this combination of remembering to be aware, remembering to be present. And I liken it to a cricket umpire, because a cricket umpire that doesn't is not aware of what's going on moment by moment, what sort of umpire would that be? You know, missed this ball, missed this catch or whatever, this wicket. So we have to be like umpires, but we have to do it in a relaxed way, because you can't, if you have a lot of tension in the mind, stiffness in the mind, it will tire the mind out. Before you know it, you'll be, worn out. You've got to have this, and also you won't be very aware. Your awareness needs to be relaxed so that it can really pick up what's going on. So very good. Then that awareness, what happens is, as it becomes calmer and calmer, it gets stiller, it slows down. It becomes, the awareness focus becomes more and more focused, and it becomes steadier, and it becomes stronger. And usually when the mind starts to come together, ekaggata chitta, when it comes together, there's more happiness in the mind too, actually, because a lot of our energy is spent on the mind going out here, there, and hearing sounds, smells, tastes and touches. So it's quite busy. So this is a very happy, sort of a happy experience for the mind. And we allow that, you can only allow that to happen. You cannot force your mind to become still, slow, go into samadhi. It will happen. And then from that, because the mind has that strength, that happiness, that stillness, that stability, it can see things differently. And this is where we develop the insight. From that strength of mind, from that depth of mind, we can see things differently. So this is a very important sequence. Of course, sometimes what can happen too is, if we develop some insight, if something comes to us, it can bring more peace to the mind. It can bring more stability to the mind. So one of my teachers, Ayakema, would say, a little bit of samatha can bring vipassana. A little bit of vipassana can bring more samatha. Keep building, building, building. They're not separate. They're joined in a sense. So that's very important. And just to go through quickly through some of the other points, is I was going to say, when we're meditating, it doesn't matter how we sit, as long as it's a fairly alert, straight sort of posture as we can manage. Doesn't matter whether it's a chair. Certainly you don't have to sit in full lotus. I know young monks like to do that, and they often wreck their knees that way, actually, because it's not body work. It's not body work in the end. Meditation and the path is mind work. So the body, as long as it's reasonably alert, will have energy, and then we can develop the mind. So that's very important. And I went through the relaxation of the body. You've had that. And the intention is always good to to start at the beginning, not to turn it into an expectation or a demand, but just to give the mind some framework. This is important. Because I say to people, if you never had the intention to go to Kandy, Mahanura, would you ever get there? No, it would never happen. If you had the intention, one day I will go to Kandy, then it will happen. But it's very unlikely you end up in Kandy if you have no intention. But it's good not to turn it into an expectation. And the developing of positive states, I was going to mention a bit more about that. The very, very useful one is gratitude. And gratitude is best, we can arouse that by thinking of what brings it up very easily for me is thank you. We can thank you, and then you can, just by itself, those words will actually bring up thank you. And something will come, actually. You're thankful for, what someone said today, or what somebody did for you today, or what you did for someone today, whenever. So gratitude is a really good positive emotion, very easy one, actually. Or you could always think of someone you're very grateful to, who's helped you a lot in life. And as I said, contentment is great too, because just to have that feeling that I have enough, I have enough, is actually so, it runs counter to our lives actually. Because most of the times we have a want list. I need this, I need that, I need so on and so on. And this doesn't make for happiness actually, it doesn't make for contentment, and the mind won't be still. But if we can just say, I have enough, I appreciate what I have, be that little or a lot, whatever it is, if you can appreciate that, then the sense of contentment comes. Because when we want, when we need, it's a feeling of lack. It's not a very pleasant feeling actually, it drives us. We feel like, I'll only be happy when I get it, or that, or that person, or that job. And of course that's always, our minds are not happy until and when we get whatever we wanted, it may or may not be what we expect. Often it isn't the way we expect. Yes, got it, and it may feel good for a while, but it won't bring that sense of contentment. But any time we can say, I have enough, whatever it is, and then the mind can be content. We can use it with the breath, that sense of contentment. We can use this sense of gratitude. And today I was teaching, we used metta. I hope that was useful for you. Metta you can do in a number of ways. I usually like to often do it, in the negative sense. Like we said, may I be without troubles of body and mind. May I be at ease, may I be at peace. It's often easier that way than wishing. Often metta is, may I be happy and well. But if you work from the problems you're experiencing at the moment, the difficulties of mind, that for me is is easier in a way. It's more grounded. Sometimes the other way doesn't work, but just try. Whatever works for you is the important thing. And other very important approaches are acceptance for yourself, acceptance for the situation you're in at the moment, acceptance for whatever you're experiencing at the moment. This doesn't mean you can't change it later, but to accept the situation at the moment, your body and mind, this can be very useful for the meditation. It's like making peace. This is another approach, making peace with whatever we're experiencing. This is very good for difficult emotions like when we're restless, when we're bored, when we're anxious, when we're depressed. Just make peace with it. The tendency with a lot of negative emotions is to want to start a fight with them, want to throw them out of the mind, want to do battle with them. What happens? They just get worse, they just grow. So to make peace is going in the opposite direction. It doesn't, admittedly, whatever this negative emotion may be, it's not comfortable, yes, for sure, but we can still make peace with it. And in actual fact, when we make peace with situations, they change much, much quicker than if we start to battle with them, So very, very useful. This is where you need a lot of wisdom, actually, with the meditation, actually. See what works. And gentleness is also very useful. Just being gentle with yourself, with the mind states you experience, and letting go or letting be. I like letting be. We use that a bit for the intention. Just let things be as they are for the moment, not having to interfere, get involved, change, all that sort of thing. So that's very useful. And we have the present moment awareness, wandering mind, good. And as I mentioned, the natural flow of the breath is important. This is not yoga. We're not doing breath control or pranayama, as they call it. So that is just the natural flow of the breath. We're not manipulating it. And the supports for meditation, this is quite important actually, there can be various types of supports. Today we've used the feeling. Feeling is a very, very good one for meditation. Using it, you can use it with any object. So for instance, we used it with the breath. If you were doing walking meditation, you could use it with that. Any of the meditations, you can use this positive, pleasant feeling, combine it with it, and it will make the mind more attracted to it, because the mind will go for what's attractive, what's happy, what's positive. So this is one, feeling is one, but there are other supports. We can use, for instance, with the breath, and some of the other meditations it's possible, a mantra. You can use a word. And in Thailand they use Bud on the in-breath, Do on the out-breath, Bud on the in-breath, Do on the out-breath. And you can use any word. Very, very powerful ones that Ajahn Brahm teaches is peace on the in-breath and letting go on the out-breath. And in whatever language, you can find whatever words work. It's quite interesting that just those words can calm the mind. It's quite interesting how it works. And so if you're breathing in peace and breathing out, letting go of all the negativity, all tension, any difficulties, it works very, very effective. So that's mantra. And other thing that people who are mathematically inclined like to count the breath. They can indeed. I don't like it at all. 1 on the in-breath, 1 on the out-breath, 2 on the in-breath, 2 on the out-breath, up to 9, and then start counting down. 8 on the in-breath, 8 on the out-breath, 7 down to 1, and keep going. It's very good for when the mind wanders off and you find you're up to 18 or 19. Then you just go back to 1. If you like numbers, it will probably work for you. For me, I think, hard work. So that's another possibility. And the other one that you can use is like images. Some people are very visual. So for the breath, for instance, very easy one is the sea coming in is like the breath coming in, then the wave going out is like the breath going out. Combine that with the breath and it makes it very interesting. Or you may see the wind blowing a tree backwards and forwards, and this can be like the wind blowing towards you, the in-breath, blowing away, the out-breath. And so you can use an image. And these are great supports. One of my teachers, Ayakema, she always used to teach these actually as supports for the breath meditation. And they can actually be used with some of the other meditations as well. So very important to find something that works. This is the most important thing. If it works for you, if it leads to more peace, more calm, stability, happiness in the mind, more wisdom, you're going in the right direction. It's whatever that technique may be, whatever that approach may be, it's working for you. You should pursue it, develop it, and make much of it. So this is very, very useful to have supports for meditation. And then, of course, I mentioned looking at the qualities of the breath. That makes more interest in the breath. And then to see the whole breath, the more and more of the breath until you see the whole breath. And then to calm the breath down. And that's the breath meditation, as the Buddha taught it, with this approach. So very important to develop the meditation like that. And that way, as I say, if you develop happiness, joy, enjoying what you're doing, you'll do more of it. If you don't enjoy what you're doing with the meditation, you won't do much of it at all. It will be hard work. And this all hinges on our attitude, doesn't it? I know many people, or some people, like to do it tough. They have this very almost militant or military-like attitude to meditation, and that won't work. I mean, maybe for a very short time you can do something, but it won't be sustainable. Ajahn Brahm once said to me, I asked him about a meditation question, about the mind developing and getting to a certain stage, and then, I said, well, can you force it a bit? He said, only for a short time. You've got to let go of that force. Because, as I say, the meditation is not us doing it, it's allowing this process to happen. So I wish you success with that, and I hope there were some things that were useful in the meditation that worked for you. And if there are any questions, maybe we can have a short questions, comments, complaints. That's good. I often say after meditation, if there are no questions, I feel like the meditation has been successful, because if there are a lot of questions, I think, what were they doing during the meditation? They were probably thinking, or complaining, maybe complaining, oh, when will this end? So that's always a good sign, I think, if there are no questions, because it does mean the mind has calmed down, and our minds are usually very active. But I'd just like to mention too that often people think the Buddhist path is pessimistic, negative, all about suffering. But in actual fact, the Buddha's teaching is all about happiness. He's looking at the things that prevent us from being happiness and telling us how to deal with them. And of course, often the commentaries, I think the Buddha himself actually likened himself to a doctor. So he likened himself to a doctor or a physician, and he's telling us, when he's telling us about dukkha, about suffering, he's telling us about these illnesses we have. And then when he tells us about the cause of that illness, which is tanha, desire, he's telling us about this is the cause of your suffering, your difficulties. But then he's pointing to the third noble truth, which is the ending of that cause for our unhappiness. This is happiness, this is peace. And then of course the fourth noble truth is the way to that happiness and peace. Because the Buddha's path is aimed at the ultimate happiness. All the stages of the Buddha's path are to deal with happiness. And he always said, there's the happiness you can gain. He didn't say from dana so much, but there is happiness you can gain from dana. There's happiness you can gain from sila, the fact that that what you've done and said has been good. It hasn't hurt yourself, hasn't hurt others. And also from the meditation, you can develop the happiness of the mind. And from insight, you can develop the happiness of insight, of vipassana, of seeing things as they really are. And then you can develop the happiness of nibbana, the happiness of the end of all suffering. So the Buddha's path is about happiness. But he's realistic, he knows there are problems. I mean, if you tell people, just be happy, like that's saying, just be happy. That's all very well, but how do you do it? And the Buddha is telling us how to do it. Because if you tell people, just be happy, it's sort of like plastering over the fact that maybe there are difficulties in life. Maybe I have problems in my relationships, in my work, or in whatever, Because we have to know what the problems are, deal with them, and then happiness comes as a result. So I wish you more and more happiness and more wisdom. And as we grow in wisdom, we more and more in accord with reality. Reality in the Buddhist path is samadhi. And when we are in accord with reality, no problems. But when we have expectations of reality that aren't in accord with it, big problems. And the big problems usually come from wanting things to be permanent that aren't permanent, wanting things to be happiness that aren't happiness really, and wanting things to be beautiful which aren't really beautiful, and wanting things to be ourself, wanting to be self which aren't really self. So anyway, may you grow and grow in happiness and enjoy the meditation and take it to further and further, so that you develop that happiness, you develop the wisdom, and I wish you well for that. So sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yes. And may we share this with all beings everywhere. If we develop meditation, we share it anyway with the people we live with, the people we come in contact with, because if we develop it, they will feel the benefits. They will be an easier person to get along with, a happier person, maybe an inspiring person. So it's good. So I wish you well. So thank you very much for the invitation this evening, Dian and Dehara, for the invitation this evening, and a very special occasion to be able to meditate together. It's a great support to meditate together. So.